Hi class, this is course 2, lesson 34, decimal numbers on a number line. So we're going to take a look at this ruler in centimeters, and we need to find what the length is in centimeters. So what we are going to do is we're going to count our centimeters. So I have 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and now I have to determine what my extra part is. So I know it's at least 2, but it's going to be 2 point something. And I know that the metric system is always in groups of 10. So in 1 centimeter, there's always going to be 10 millimeters. So I'm just going to then count the little ticks here to be able to determine what the next number is going to be. So if I count them, I go 1, 2, 3. And if I look right up here, I can kind of draw my line, and that's going to be at 3. So I'm going to put a decimal point after my 2 and make that 2.3 centimeters. And then I need to determine what my length is in millimeters. So each centimeter on a scale has been divided into 10 equal parts. So each centimeter is 10 millimeters, like we've showed before. Thus, each small segment on the scale is 1 millimeter. And the length of the segment, if we counted those just individually, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on, to find that it is 23 millimeters. Or, if I think of my scale, I'm going from centimeters to millimeters, so I'm going down on my scale, so I'm going to multiply by 10. So if I have 2.3 multiplied by 10, I'm going to move my decimal place over once, and I'm going to have 23 millimeters. So that's how we are going to determine the length on that ruler. Now we need to find the perimeter of the rectangle in meters. But here our dimensions are given to us in centimeters. So what I need to do is I need to determine my perimeter in centimeters first, and then I'm going to convert it to meters. So if this side is 12 centimeters, I know that this side is 12, and if this side's 7, I know that this one's 7. Excuse me. So if I add them all up, I have 12, 12, 7, and 7. And then I add them all up. 7 and 7 is 14, and 4 gives me 18, and that gives me 38. 38 centimeters. And then I have to think of my chart. And for some of you, just getting out your chart is going to be the easiest thing for you. So I'm going from centimeters to meters. And when I do that, each centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. So I can rewrite my fraction. I can rewrite it as 38 over 100. And then we can rewrite that as a decimal because we know what 38 hundredths is as a decimal. So I'm going to write it as 0.38 meters. And the best way to be able to convert these is by looking at our chart that we have in our notes from lesson 31, I believe. So being able to convert these back and forth is really going to help you in this section. We also need to find each of these numbers indicated by the arrows on this number line. So I just need to find what these numbers are. So I need to determine what each tick mark means. So what I'm going to do, because it's easiest for me, is I'm just going to count these and see how many little tick marks are in between each of the big numbers. So if I count them, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 tick marks in between 4.0 and 4.1. There's 10. And so from each one of those, there's going to be 10. So that means I can just determine my numbers through that. So my first number I know is between 4.0 and 4.1. So I need to see what my number is going to be. So I know it's going to be 4.0 because it's not going to be bigger than 1 because it would be on the other side. So it has to be less, so I have to keep that 0. And then I'm going to count the number of ticks before it gets to the dot. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm just going to put that 5 right on the end of that, and that's going to be my first letter. So A is going to equal 4.05. And then we're going to look at B. So I know B is between 4.3 and 4.4. So just like before, I need that number to start with 4.3. And then I'm going to count those numbers, those ticks in between to determine that number. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that number just goes afterwards. That's not a very good 8. To complete that number on that indicated by the arrow. And my last number is C. And I can see that it's between 4.7 and 4.8. So I'm going to put the lower number first. So I have 4.7. And then I need to count my tick marks. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I see that's a 3, so it's going to be 4.73. And that looks like a comma. There we go, 4.73. So when we determine these numbers on a number line, it depends on what your number line is. You just have to determine what your scale is in between each of those numbers, and then being able to find that number that goes after the decimal point, determine the correct decimal value of that point. And with that, that's just a review with our decimal numbers and finding them on a number line. You'll have to be able to compare those, and so if you have questions about comparing decimals, make sure that you ask them in class.